Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines this hour. At least 16 files disappear from the U.S. Justice Department's public webpage, hosting records related to late financier Jeffrey Epstein less than a day after they were released, including one containing a photograph showing President Donald Trump. Democrats note photo of Trump apparently removed from Department of Justice release of the Epstein files. The missing files, which were available on Friday but no longer accessible by Saturday, included a photograph of Trump alongside Epstein, Melania Trump, and Epstein's longtime associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. Ukrainian President Zelensky not sure Ukraine-US-Russia meeting would help, says only US can persuade Russia to end Ukraine war. US offers new talks format including Russia and Ukraine. The United States intercepts an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela in international waters, a move that comes just days after US President Donald Trump announced a blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving Venezuela. Lebanon says it is days from completing Hezbollah's disarmament south of the Litani River under a US-backed ceasefire with Israel, with plans to extend weapons confiscation nationwide. North Korea condemned Japan's moves toward nuclear weapons, saying its ambitions must be thoroughly curbed following US approval for South Korea to build a nuclear-powered submarine. After Google, Apple has issued an internal warning advising some of its employees on work visas not to travel outside the US, as prolonged delays at US embassies and consulates risk leaving workers stranded alone. Google has announced that its Gemini AI platform will fully replace Google Assistant on Android devices in 2026, pushing back its earlier timeline to allow for a more seamless migration. The change will affect Android phones, tablets, and even the standalone iOS app, which will be phased out once Gemini takes over. Welcome back, viewers. Now, a spokesperson for Bill Clinton has accused the White House of using the former president as scapegoat after newly released Epstein-related files included photographs of Clinton with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. The spokesperson said the release was a political move, arguing the administration was trying to deflect attention from what it may still be hiding. Clinton's team stressed that he cut ties with Epstein around 2005 before Epstein pleaded guilty to soliciting a minor. They cited comments by White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles acknowledging Clinton was not on Epstein's Caribbean island, despite repeated claims by US President Donald Trump. This comes as the US Department of Justice released the first batch of Epstein files on December 19. The files were filled with names of world's most famous people, including Clinton, Michael Jackson, and Mick Jagger. However, there was one notable exception in the file, that of US President Donald Trump. Epstein visited the White House at least 17 times during the early years of Clinton's presidency, according to White House visitors' records citing in news reports. He later traveled with Epstein on the financier's private jet in the years after he left office in 2001, including to Asia and Africa on trips related the Clinton Global Initiative. Clinton has never been formally accused of any wrongdoing in connection with Epstein. And we have Irina Sukerman, who's a senior journalist. She joins us live from New York. Thank you, Irina, for joining us here at NewsX World. Do talk to us about the impact that the release of the latest batch of Epstein files is having there in US democracy.
So far, it's the biggest impact is actually inside the Republican Party, because it's tearing the party apart. This is something that President Trump has campaigned on for several years. He talked about the Democrats and how President Biden refused to release these files. And now, all of a sudden, there is this sudden lack of transparency, that at best breeds suspicion and questions, and at worst smacks of hypocrisy and double standards. And I think a lot of the hardcore MAGA followers of Donald Trump are extremely upset about all of this. And now we're seeing that what is being released is actually much worse than the snippets of information that we're getting out over the years. We're seeing that there were at least 1,200 women who were involved, that Epstein was targeting underage girls, that he had tried to introduce one of those girls to President Trump, that very high profile figures were involved in all of this, whether or not they actually took part in the sex trafficking or simply enjoyed the atmosphere. Still, it's extremely inappropriate, deeply unethical, and extremely upsetting to a lot of people for a good reason. It raises questions about their views of women, their treatment of women, and there's the content of communications between various parties indicates a high degree of a network that appear to thrive on scandalous and scurrilous material, and likely there were other things involved, not just sex trafficking itself, but money laundering, potentially blackmail, and quite possibly some level of intelligence-related operations as well.
All right. What about the reactions that are coming in, particularly from the Democrats, who are saying that the files are heavily redacted? Of course, certain concerns have been raised as to why the redaction was required. But particularly concerning is that the 19 files that have been removed, on Saturday after being available on Friday, had also a photograph showing Trump. And now there's, of course, increased conversation about Bill Clinton and his association with Epstein as well, but of course he's addressed those claims. But concerning to me more is the fact that the files that were removed had a mention of Trump and his image as well.
Well, it certainly seems like Trump is trying to divert attention from his own very extensive relationship with Epstein, which, by the way, he at various times tried to deny, by refocusing the attention to Bill Clinton. And it's entirely possible that most of Trump's own associations with the story are just that, unpleasant associations, unrelated business transactions, and simply enjoying the atmosphere without necessarily taking part in anything illegal. None of it makes the situation any better. The fact that he is doing exactly what he accused his predecessors of doing, the fact that he refuses to hold his own members of his own network accountable for any potential transgressions, the fact that he is refusing to basically explain what he was doing there and why, and if it was innocuous, he could just issue a generic apology for bad judgment, bad decision making, and move on. And I think that would have put the entire issue to rest. Instead, this sort of this removal of evidence, this removal of pictures after promising transparency, after signing off on the law, indicates that there may be something more, there may be something darker, that there is some sort of a government cover-up involved, and this is the sort of action that Republicans blamed on the deep state, but now they're in control of the executive branch, and they're the ones who are doing exactly that. They're becoming the deep state that they warned everybody else against.
All right, Irina, do continue to stay on with us. We have some more information coming in regard to the files that have been released. Now, viewers, with the release of the first batch of the Epstein files, the late sex offender's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell's background has been highlighted again. Robert Maxwell, the father of Ghislaine, was a powerful British media tycoon who was long suspected of working with Israeli intelligence Mossad. Multiple journalists, former intelligence officials and whistleblowers alleged that Maxwell acted as a conduit between Mossad and Western political and business elites. Central to these claims was the Promise software scandal, in which a US government program was allegedly modified with an Israeli backdoor and sold worldwide, allowing intelligence access to sensitive systems. Former Israeli spy Ari Bench Minash claimed that Maxwell was the key international salesman of this technology. British intelligence reportedly viewed him as a double or even triple agent with links to Mossad, MI6 and the KGB. While never officially proven, Maxwell received a state funeral in Israel attended by senior intelligence promise, further fueling suspicion about his covert role. And I request Irina to join me back in the discussion here. Irina, what is this promise software that Maxwell was apparently using for his covert operations?
There wasn't just one software. The stories about Maxwell's alleged connections to Mossad and other intelligence agencies have circulated for years, but the truth of the matter, it wasn't just one thing. He was involved with various types of cybersecurity, cyber software, and he was also linked to various cybersecurity companies. Interestingly enough, Maxwell was found dead under mysterious circumstances, not too different with what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, what's even more interesting that the software that was being traded in the 80s, because at this point in time it's 80s and 90s, it's that software is completely obsolete, is the fact that Jeffrey Epstein apparently inherited Maxwell's business because he himself owned a cybersecurity company, and he was also involved in cyber research in other companies. He was an investor in cybersecurity. He was also allegedly linked to research efforts by various individuals, officials in Israel, such as Ehud Barak, but also he was rumored to be linked to Russian intelligence and to various Middle Eastern actors. So it seems to be a long-standing relationship that was passed on through the years, possibly because it was convenient for all involved. When you have a trusted relationship with actors who are willing to do your business without you being directly involved for you, why try to cultivate new assets when you can continue that relationship for many years? And the nature of the business doesn't change just because software or types of operations do.
All right, thank you, Irina, for joining us. But to continue to stay on, as a request to your opinion moving forward as well. And moving on, viewers, let's tell you that Russian Defense Ministry is saying that Russian air defenses intercepted and destroyed 3 Ukrainian drones over the past night. According to the Defense Ministry, 3 fixed-wing type Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles were intercepted and destroyed by air defenses on duty over the past night. 2 drones over the territory of the Volgograd region and 1 drone over the territory of the Rostov region. This comes as US officials are meeting Russian officials in Florida for the latest talks aimed at ending Russia-Ukraine war. The Miami meeting is followed by US talks with Ukrainian and European officials, the latest discussions of a peace plan that has sparked some hope of a resolution to the conflict. And now moving ahead, viewers, Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam has said that its government is close to completing the disarmament of Hezbollah across regions south of the Litani River. This comes as Lebanon races to fulfill a key demand of the ceasefire with Israel, which holds a year-end deadline of December 31. Now, the US-backed ceasefire was agreed last year in November, which ended more than a year of fighting between Israel and the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah. The ceasefire deal also notably required Hezbollah to disarm, starting in areas south of the Litani River that are adjacent to Israel. Steps for disarming began in August earlier this year when Lebanese President Joseph Aoun tasked its army to devise a plan to establish state monopoly on weapons. Moreover, the Lebanese Prime Minister has added that his government is now ready to move on to the second phase, which will involve disarmament in areas north of the Litani River. And we have Irina Sukuman, who is a senior journalist. She joins us live from New York. Irina, now of course, south of the Litani River, is Hezbollah may completely be ousted, but is it possible is it not in fact possible for it to trickle down from the other areas where it still continues to have its stronghold?
I have to say, I think the celebrations of even this development are premature.
Yeah.
Just because the government claims that phase one is complete does not mean that it's complete. In fact, that is the very reason why Israel has conducted several strikes against senior Hezbollah figures recently, and they had openly accused the government of failing to disarm Hezbollah sufficiently. So what we may be seeing is a very symbolic and rushed process to declare victory, to move on to phase two, to avoid being targeted by Israel, but not necessarily because Hezbollah in fact has been disarmed. Moreover, from what I understand, the early stages of the process were not focused on Hezbollah at all, but rather on the Palestinian camps in that vicinity, which are much easier to disarm because they're contained, they're self-contained, and again, it's not like Israel is able to freely inspect those camps to see that every weapon has actually been removed from that vicinity. We have to take the word of the Lebanese government for it, and they have every incentive to try to avoid a foreign entanglement and some sort of a military clash with Israel, but at the same time, I don't know that they have any means to really disarm Hezbollah if it does not wish to be disarmed, and Hezbollah has resisted disarmament despite high-level losses this year from Israeli strikes and assassinations. So we are at a point where Lebanon may claim some sort of a compliance with its own resolutions and with the international pressure, only to avoid accountability and avoid the pressure from Hezbollah, which, unlike the international community, is perfectly capable of much deadlier pressure rather than merely sanctions or other financial instruments.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Irina, for now joining us and weighing in your opinion and explaining that to us. With that, viewers, let's shift our focus to news now from Taipei, where Taiwanese police say that the man behind the deadly attack in Taipei acted alone. 4 people were killed, including the suspect, and 11 others were injured. Now, police say 27-year-old Chang Wen set off smoke grenades at Taipei's main train station, then attacked people with a knife at a nearby shopping mall. The suspect died after falling from a building during a police chase. 2 of the injured remain in intensive care. Authorities say the motive is still under investigation. The man was wanted over alleged military service evasion. Violent crime is rare in Taiwan. Security has now been stepped up across Taipei and other crowded areas. President Lai Ching-te says lessons will be learned to improve emergency response. And I now welcome Ross Feingold, who's a political analyst, and he joins us live from Taipei in Taiwan. Thank you, Mr. Feingold, for joining us once again here at NewsX World. Yesterday, we were having this discussion about this attack. Now, if any more information has come up, do we know what were the political affiliations of this attacker, whether he belonged to any particular ideology, whether he was pro-China? Because we are also learning that he escaped, a military role in Taiwan.
There's no indication as of yet that this is politically motivated. Authorities are still conducting an investigation. Of course, it's still a very early stage for that investigation. It appears that he was angry at his situation in life, career failure and frustrations of that sort. He had cut off contact with his parents for approximately 2 years. So at this stage, there's no indication at all that it has anything to do with politics or relations between China and Taiwan. In fact, on that point, in the aftermath of the attack on Friday night, there were people who rushed to go on social media and make completely baseless accusations that there may in fact be some kind of connection to China, that he may have been raised in China, or that his mother may have been from China. And all of that has proven to be absolutely false. So I mean, that is also a caution for how people should react or comment in the aftermath of these kinds of horrible incidents.
All right. Well, that's all that I wanted to ask you in this discussion, but thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Feingold. And with that, viewers, let's now move on to some tech news that we are covering. Google has announced that its Gemini AI platform will fully replace Google Assistant on Android devices in 2026. The company delayed the original end of 2025 timeline to ensure a smoother migration for users. The transition will affect Android phones, tablets, and the standalone iOS Assistant app. For now, users can still switch back to Google Assistant within the Gemini app, even on Pixel devices. The migration will be gradual, not a forced update. The reason for the delay is unclear, though Gemini may still lack some assistant features. Meanwhile, Gemini is already expanding across Wear OS, Google TV, Android Auto, and smart home devices. Google says it remains committed to making Gemini the central assistant across its ecosystem. And I'm now joined by Somraj Bhattacharjee, who's an AI and market strategic expert. And he joins us from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Mr. Bhattacharjee, for joining me in this discussion. It's a pleasure to have you. Do talk to us about the use of and the replacement of AI assistant with the Gemini will change the interface of all these Android devices and the additional features that Gemini will be bringing.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good morning. To understand what Gemini is going to do, we have to understand that what existed before this. There was previously an AI assisted bot called Assistant that used to basically do NLPs, that is natural language conversations and very basic text to image conversions. But it was not really a multi-layered task assistant that could do different types of activities. What Google is trying to do with Gemini is they are trying to upgrade the intelligence level of their bots across all types of platforms, whether that be a mobile phone, a handheld device, a smart TV, even your laptops. The idea is that they want to track, Google through Gemini wants to track your conversations longer, follow up on your previous messages, discuss with you what sort of reasoning logic you follow, so that they can give you better product recommendations. This is going to, in the future, really promote Google's commercial plan to have more ads on their Gemini platform. That's point number one. And point number two, quickly, this platform is going to be very task oriented. This is going to be customizable, which Assistant was not. So, for example, you will have a different kind of interface for Gemini, whereas I will have a completely different interface. And this is across different types of platforms. So that's the basic idea behind launching this platform now. Yeah.
All right, and what are some of the security concerns that could emerge with the, Gemini taking over the Android devices? Because, like you said, it will be tracking all our conversations, whatever we are touching, whatever we are buying. How is? I'm sure there are going to be some, security concerns that are going to emerge. So, what are the ways in which Google will be able to circumvent those?
Yeah, so basic issue is the privacy details, because if you provide granular details about your daily personal lives across platforms, your daily granular details will be available in an open source platform where anybody can come in and make changes. For this reason, they are providing certain tenets called as core privacy models. These will be under the Google Gemini app's activity details, which all of us should read before we say we accept, where different types of auto delete settings will be there for the data they store. So what I mean by that is Gemini will be authorized to either store your data for 3 months, 6 months, 18 months, 26 months, and so forth. By default, Google has set in a mechanism where your data will be deleted after 18 months, which is a very big thing, which other platforms are not doing. So that's point number one. And point number two, to prevent any type of abuse or preventing any type of issues with privacy interpretation, what Google has done is that they are also providing SMS, WhatsApp-based alerts in case somebody does have access to your data, which none of the other assistants in the market are doing. So these are two things that they are promising. Well, until and unless it comes in the market, nobody can comment on it, but these are things that Google is taking pretty seriously.
Sure. Also talked about whether Gemini has a competitive edge over other AI, platforms that are there, OpenAI, Chinese DeepSeek. Of course, we don't have access to that as yet. But talking about the global landscape of AI and the emerging market for it.
Until the product comes out, nobody can comment on it. But at least the literature available on the internet says that the Gemini Live feature will have a lot more free-flowing, human-like interactions. The voices will be in your regional languages. There may also be options of a male or a female bot voice, that is personalization. Secondly, the Google Gemini promises to provide you a deep research mode. That means is that multiple resources can be tracked at the same time. Data authenticity will be more, multimodal analysis will be more, and also Google claims that their NLP logic will be able to also provide Ask Home features. Now, what is that? That is a direct competitor of the, if you know what I mean, the Alexa Home Assistant. So these are certain things Google Gemini is claiming that they will provide, which is not there in the market right now. None of the other competitors do this. But again, as I said, until the product comes out fully, scaled out fully, and rolled out across different types of platforms and regions, nobody can know for sure what's coming up.
But there's the subscription model that's available right now. Is there anything that we can pick up about how Gemini is really going to be from that?
And actually, they haven't provided their pricing model yet, so I cannot comment on that. But what I can comment on is that the Assistant, a platform which did not have a subscription model, will be replaced by initially a free version of not a 100% subscription, but a free trial version of the Gemini app, which will be provided to users for a limited duration of time. I'm expecting it would be for a year, like the competitors like Perplexity and ChatGPT are doing. And once that trial period is over, there may be a subscription model. Pricing, again, this is something that Google has released. Nobody knows about that.
All right. For now, thank you very much, Somraj, for joining me in this discussion. And with that, viewers, we are moving on to now news coming in from Australia, where Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has ordered a review into the police and intelligence services, where his government would try to examine whether or not these services are properly equipped in terms of structure and arrangements to ensure complete safety to its citizens. This comes in the aftermath of the brutal Bondi Beach attack last week on December 4 during the Hanukkah celebration at the beach. A father-son duo, allegedly inspired by the Islamic State ideology, carried out the shooting, killing 15 people and wounding dozens of others. According to official reports, one of the shooters, the son, identified as 24-year-old Naveed, was investigated back in 2019 over radicalization charges, but was released shortly as the authorities claimed he did not pose a threat. His father, 50-year-old Sajid Akram, who was the other shooter, was also questioned by the intelligence services at the time. Later, he still managed to obtain a gun license, which allowed him to own 6 rifles. The Australian Prime Minister has raised alarm over the security lapses in the country's intelligence services. Meanwhile, residents of Sydney gathered earlier today to collectively commemorate the tragic incident, lighting candles and marking a day of reflection to honor the people who lost their lives last Sunday. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of The World Report. But do keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.